Om Shanti. A greeting of peace to my sisters and my brothers. Spirituality is very much a power that's needed in today's world, especially in today's world. Never before has there been such a time of trauma and chaos. And within this situation, one of the universal illnesses that affects each and every person, whether it's a person living in the north or the south or the east or the west, whatever age they may be, or whatever social conditions they may find themselves in, yet fear is a universal illness. And fear, when it comes to one, infects everybody else around that one also, because fear is contagious. Perhaps you feel that, well, just as there are so many different fluctuations and ups and downs in human life, of course fear is natural and it's something that we have to live with forever. And yet, fear is actually quite dangerous. A person influenced by fear leads to all sorts of decisions and actions that otherwise, when one is calm and cool and collected, one just wouldn't be doing. When I'm afraid, my mind is clouded, my intellect is confused, and I'm not able to think clearly. And so I take steps that later on I regret. When there are difficulties all around us, and surely this is a time of great difficulty, our fear multiplies the difficulties and worsens the situation. If instead of being afraid, I could stay peaceful, calm, and stable, I would be in a better position to be able to do the things that can lead me out of danger, and also I could be an effective instrument to help and support others around me. And so it is important to be able to look at the subject of fear and see what are the deep roots, the causes that create fear, and how it is we're able to actually deal with them and resolve them. One of the things that causes fear is illness. When I'm ill, then of course the fear that comes is, well, what does the future hold? And the mind instantly runs off to the worst scenario possible. And what haunts my mind at that moment is the fear of my own death. Let's stop here and look at the subject of death. It isn't a subject that we like to talk about, and yet, of course, it is inevitable. Just as birth is absolutely natural, in the same way, death is surely also part of the human cycle. And just as birth is natural, so too the passing away, what we describe as death, also has to then be equally natural. We rejoice when there's a child that takes birth. And of course, when someone dies, it seems to be a time of great grief and mourning. And yes, we have love and attachments and concern. But in fact, just as the day has to give way, and at some point of time, the night has to come, equally in the same way, birth, life, and at a certain point, I don't know when, but surely there has to come a moment when I'm ready to leave. And so to be able to look at death in the face and actually understand what death is, means that I'm able to go beyond fear of death, and also then beyond fear of illness. Every tradition has taught us about the eternity of the spirit, or the eternity of the soul. Of course, in today's conditions where life has become very materialistic and our attitudes and vision are colored completely by all the physical aspects around us, it applies in a very deep and powerful way to the identity that I hold of myself, the image that I have of who I am. And of course, generally speaking, our image or identity is connected completely with the physical form. And that's what causes fear of death, because the physical form has a moment of starting, and just as surely as something begins, something has to end, so too the physical form has a moment which is the end, death. But the spirit is eternal. The spirit doesn't have a beginning and therefore cannot have an ending. This word eternity is difficult for us to come to terms with, because we're used to working in the human world within parameters, within limits, and so we've no idea what eternity is actually like. And yet, the understanding of the spirit, and more importantly, the awareness of the spirit, the experience of my own eternal identity, and in spiritual terms, I understand that I am the living being, the soul, residing here, just behind the forehead, in the center of the brain. I am that being of light, the eternal being, occupying this costume, this physical body, to play my role on the world stage. It's not enough to hear these words, but I must start thinking about them. And as I begin to think about these ideas, the concept of the soul, the concept of eternity, I begin to get a glimpse of what eternity actually is. I'm able to step above, beyond limits, and come to that awareness of I, the eternal being of light. Death cannot come to me. This body ends, but the soul is eternal, immortal. In our scriptures it says that fire cannot touch the soul, water cannot harm the soul, the wind cannot touch it, the air cannot touch it. Nothing that a human being can do can touch this eternal spirit, the being of light. And so this is who I am. I am that eternal spark of consciousness. And in this awareness, I'm able to see death simply as a transition. Death doesn't mean a dark door that blocks everything and puts an end to everything. Rather, death can be seen as a door through which one passes and moves on to another state of experience, another state of awareness. Whatever my understanding may be of the life beyond, and there are different concepts about this, of course, but certainly all the traditions tell us that the soul is eternal, and so death is not an ending. Rather, it is the start of something else, a new beginning. My own experience of eternity will bring me to that awareness that I don't need to be afraid of death. Some of you may have heard of people who've gone through the near-death experience, and whichever tradition it is they come from, whether it's Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, whatever it may be, but there's a lot of research and documentation about this subject, and what these people have described is that at the point of death, and there's actually clinical death at that moment, and it may last for a few minutes, it may last for several minutes, sometimes it's been recorded as having lasted for anywhere up to 30 to 40 minutes even, but in that state, the soul experiences a separation, a separate existence from the body. The body has been described as death, but the soul is very much alive and is conscious and is aware. And in that state, it goes through a series of experiences. It seems to go through a dark tunnel. It comes out of that tunnel. It comes to an experience of infinite light, a light that seems to be a light that gives love and surrounds that soul with a very benign feeling of goodness. In fact, there's such a good feeling that certainly no soul wants to come back. But sometimes there's what's called unfinished business. And so the soul then comes back, and it then has to pick up the threads of its life and continue with whatever is the business, and it has to learn to settle that. But certainly one thing changes for all these people, and that is they're no longer afraid of death, because they know that there is life beyond. And yes, sometimes people have come back and described these things. Another experience that happens at that moment is, of course, the whole of one's life flashes in front of one's eyes. And so it's an indication that all the experiences we've been through, we carry within our own being. The soul is that being that records all experiences. In this awareness of the soul, definitely I'm able to go beyond the fear of death. And then, if I'm in a period of illness, then I know that, yes, the body is settling whatever are the accounts that have come to be cleared, but even in that state of physical illness, that process of inner detachment from the body gives the soul the strength to be able to tolerate the pain and cope with the discomfort of the illness. And during that period of illness, one knows that through the power of the mind, through the power of consciousness and positive feelings and positive attitudes, it's actually possible to heal the body much more quickly than it would be otherwise. And so, with spirituality, with an understanding of what the soul is and how soul and body are functioning together at this moment, it's possible to face death, it's possible to face illness with equanimity, with courage. One doesn't invite these things, but of course they're part of natural life, and so if they come, then I have to learn to face them with a smile. So let me learn to do this, rather than face them with anger and fear and bitterness. Whatever it is that happens in my life, if I can face it with a smile, I'll be able to learn from that situation and move forward. When a debt has to be paid, let me do that with a smile. It has to be paid in one form or another anyway, so let it be with a smile rather than with tears. Death and illness are two factors, but there are several other things that of course cause a lot of fear in our hearts. We are afraid of the future, and yes, the future seems to be a very traumatic one. We don't know what the future holds. There are so many things that keep changing in today's world. There are no guarantees, no certainties about the future anymore. The power of spirituality teaches me that if today I can make good use of every moment at the present time, if I use my thoughts, my words, and my actions in a positive direction, then I'm sowing good seeds for the future, and the fruits that I'm going to receive in the future are going to be very sweet ones. If at the present time my time is being wasted, my energy is being spent in negative directions, then of course, yes, there's a fear for the future. I don't know what the results of all this is going to be. And then yes, definitely I'm very anxious and afraid. But if I can focus on using all my resources, and the most valuable of my resources are my thoughts and my time. So using my thoughts, my breath, my words, even the finances that I have in a positive, constructive way, I know that my future is assured. It's been said that the past is a mystery and the future is also a question. The past is also history and the future is definitely mystery, but at the present time, the present is a gift. It's a present. And so let me learn to use it in the best way possible, and then I need have no fear for the future. But apart from the mysteries and the histories of the past, of course, our own conscience also remembers the things of the past that shouldn't have been done. And so there's within our maybe unconscious or subconscious mind that subtle fear of what the repercussions of all of that are going to be. My experience tells me that no matter what may have happened in the past, if today there's humility, realization, and I'm able to ask God for forgiveness, God is able to give me forgiveness. God is able to give me the benefit of His love and compassion, and on the basis of that, I know that if today I'm ready to transform and reform, I can finish the past, I can set the things of the past behind me, and I can move forward with courage, with a new vision of the future. I don't need to be afraid of either the future or the past. Am I afraid of other people? Yes, probably. There are inferiority complexes, there are superiority complexes, there are many weaknesses that I have, and so I'm afraid of other people because of my own weaknesses and insecurities. Through my connection with God, through the power of meditation, the power of yoga, I'm able to strengthen myself so that with the power of my own inner strength, I can look every human being in the eye and not be afraid. In fact, my own vibrations invite difficulties, and if I'm facing life and the future and every human being with dignity and respect, and I'm sharing respect with others, I don't need to be afraid at all. If I'm sending out the message of insecurity and fear, yes, there will be difficulties that will come in front of me. Problems will come to confront me. People will take advantage of that. But if I'm strong and stable and unafraid, because I have the confidence of knowing who I am and the confidence of my relationship with God, I know that nothing can touch me, and I don't need to be afraid of any human being whatsoever. God's protection will always be with me. These three simple factors of knowing the self, of knowing God, understanding the philosophy of action and reaction, the law of karma, I can make sure that I live a life free from fear. Let's experiment with some of these ideas so that there's actually the experience of the soul and that relationship with God. Sitting comfortably so that the body can be still, so that the mind can be free from physical distractions. Let your eyes stay open gently and look towards the center of the forehead. This is the location of that eternal spark of light. I will speak out my own thoughts as I meditate, and I invite you to follow these ideas. Sitting quietly, I ask myself the question, who am I? Am I this physical body? Am I the hands, the feet, the arms, the legs, am I any part of this physical body? And I know that I am not. Who am I? I am the being within. I am a spark of light. I am the conscient living being. I am the eternal being, the soul. I live in this physical body, but I am not this body. And in this awareness of I, the spiritual being, I go inside and journeying inwards, I can feel I, the point of light, radiating light. I am a being of peace. In this awareness of my own eternity, I connect with the Supreme, the Divine, the being of infinite love, compassion, and truth. My thoughts connect with the Divine, and I can feel God's light, God's love, God's truth surround me. I had forgotten myself, and I'd forgotten the Supreme. And now, knowing myself, becoming aware of the Supreme, I connect. And through this connection, this bond of love, all of God's treasures are available. I am safe, protected, secure. And in this experience, all the fears that I have dissolve. The power of understanding and the spiritual power through this connection with the Divine liberate me from fear. I keep this connection, and I come back to the awareness of my role on the world stage, soul playing its role through the body, but yet I keep this awareness of God's protection with me. I carry the experience of God's love and light with me. Om Shanti.